Hey y'all, it's Colson from Hodl Economics, and today we'll be going over interest rates and Bitcoin. We'll be looking at what it means when the Federal Reserve cuts interest rates and Jerome Powell adopts a much looser monetary policy. We'll be looking at how the markets are affected, as well as Bitcoin specifically, what that has done in the past, what it has meant for Bitcoin's price in the past, and what to expect in the future from the next week to the next 6 months. Not financial advice, do your own research. Please hit that subscribe button, and let's get into the video. Just a quick recap, the Federal Reserve actually just recently made a jumbo rate cut, as you can see here per the CBS News article, and they cut interest rates by 50 basis points, which is huge because it's the first cut since March of 2020 when COVID really kicked off and they needed to adopt a much looser monetary policy as kind of the whole economy shut down and people were trapped in their homes. Now, this is huge news because this is double the more typical 25 percentage point cut. It was by 50 percentage points or 50 basis points, which again is huge because this is the first time that the Fed has cut rates in 4 years. And it's not a great thing for the economy to see, but the markets are loving that this rate cut has happened and that the Fed is adopting a much looser monetary policy. So what exactly does it mean to have a looser monetary policy, to adopt a looser monetary policy? It basically just means it's less expensive to borrow. So small businesses, especially in households, can spend money more freely without so much of a shadow kind of looming over their head. And because of this, investors in both the stock market and big people in the crypto market will typically spend more and deploy more capital into these markets because they feel like they have less risk on their hands. They're adopting less risk. And markets and Bitcoin love this because of that. And so, because when the Federal Reserve cuts rates, we see market trends, they start to trend upward and have a very bullish momentum following, as we have seen in the past and as we are seeing after this recent rate cut. Now, the big thing with this most recent rate cut is a lot of people expected a 25 basis point cut, a quarter of a percent. A lot of people were hopeful for a 50 basis point cut or a half of a percent, but because Fed Chair Powell, he typically adopts a much more conservative outlook, especially when he's cutting interest rates, especially. A lot of people expected the 25 basis point cut, but a few people were actually calling for the 50 basis point cut months in advance, and they were taking a look at the charts and the likelihood and the probability that a 50 basis point cut would come. And given that the market has responded in a very bullish pattern, a very bullish way, and since the Fed cut rates on Wednesday of this week, everything has gone green. Bitcoin, especially, most recently broke above $63,000, and some people are even calling for 70K within the next 7 days. Now, since we know that the last time that the Federal Reserve cut rates was in March of 2020 with the COVID crash, we're going to look at that event for Bitcoin before we look at the most recent price action. Now, that was about right here, as you can see here. This is the start of COVID. This is the COVID crash where Bitcoin and all markets went red from when the economy everybody went into panic mode. They maxed fear because everybody was starting to get trapped in their homes. They didn't really know what the economy was going to do. You know, consumerism slowed down by a very large amount. You had toilet paper go flying off the shelves. People were scared they were going to run out of toilet paper. There's fear all over. But during that time period, Bitcoin actually fell over 50% at that end of February, early March kind of moment right there before the Federal Reserve cut rates in late March. And then following that Fed rate cut, we see Bitcoin actually go parabolic from that point. It went up over 1,000% in the months to a year following that federal cut. So if we look at the most recent price action, a lot of people are very, very bullish right here because we have seen Bitcoin spike up following the Federal Reserve kind of rate cut. We've seen it spike up massively, and a lot of people are hopeful that we have broken up above this kind of trend line where we keep putting in lower lows, and this most recent low has actually been higher than the past two. So a lot of people are hopeful with this most recent kind of bullish event within the market that we're going to see Bitcoin continue to rise. And like I said, some people are calling for 70K Bitcoin as early as next week. This was the most recent rate cut on the 18th of September 2024, and Bitcoin spiked up in the 48 hours following that. We're currently sitting at 63,000 and no signs of slowing down. Bullish comments, bullish commentary all across the market. Everybody and their mother is saying that it's only up from here, that we're going to moon, that we're going to see these rocket ships taking off. And like I said, some people are even calling for 70K within the next 7 days, which is huge. I would love to see it, but because I know how emotional and reactionary this market is, I'll believe it when I see it. I'm not going to get my hopes up. I'm not making any moves. I'm not selling any Bitcoin. I typically only buy Bitcoin. So I would love to see it. It's not going to change my my DCA, my investing calendar by any means, but I will believe that we hit 70K within the next 7 days when I see it. I'm not going to be making that call. I know how this market is. I know how volatile it is. I know how emotionally charged it can be. So to do a quick recap, when the Fed adopts a looser monetary policy, people are more likely to take on more risk and spend more money. Markets love this. They typically have a very bullish uptrend following the Federal Reserve cutting rates. I expect Bitcoin's price to continue to go up and continue on an uptrend. As far as hitting 70K within the next 7 days, I would love to see it. I'm going to err on the side of caution just because I know how volatile this market can be. And that could mean it's so volatile that we just kind of wick right up to 70K. I could be wrong, and if I am wrong, I will gladly admit it, but I find it to be unlikely, and I'm erring on the side of caution. I do think that over the next 6 to 8 months, Bitcoin will hit $100,000 by the end of the year 2024. I believe that in my heart to the fullest, especially with the Federal Reserve adopting a much looser monetary policy and cutting interest rates by 50 basis points, which is huge. And the Federal Reserve actually expects to cut another 50 basis points for a full percent within a 6 months time frame by the end of the year. Given this, Bitcoin should hit 100 grand easily per singular Bitcoin, and perhaps get as high as 120 grand per singular Bitcoin. But as far as the short term, I err on caution. I know how volatile and reactionary this market can be. We might have just wicked up above 63K, and we might retrace to 58K soon. Who knows? Only time will tell. I err on the side of caution. But as far as my longer term thesis or hypothesis, if and when the Federal Reserve cuts interest rates again this year, potentially, Bitcoin will skyrocket up to 100 grand, and we may even get as high as 120. Not financial advice, do your own research. If you liked that video, found it informational, insightful, educational in the slightest, please like, follow, subscribe, all that good old stuff. See you on the next one. Thank you.